Hi and welcome to another video by yours and only Paradox, and today I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how you can increase your gaming performance with just keeping in mind of a few key details. But before I get into it, I just wanted to know that I'm not any IT professional, so I will use very basic terms just to make sure everyone understands and that I understand what I'm talking about, because I just have a limited knowledge within this field. But with that said, we're going to be talking about the ping and the frames per second and what you can do to improve it. So if you have a look in the bottom right corner, you can see that there are different numbers there that you might not have paid attention to so far. And it's close to this bottom menu here. It says 61, and then there are a few numbers. Then it says 51 FPS, and then it says the date and the time. So the very first number you're seeing here, it's actually the response time to the server, which we are calling the ping. The ping you would like as low as possible, because the higher number you have, the longer the response time is, and you're going to be encountering lag, that it's not that responsive upon the actions you're taking. It's just a delay in everything you do. And one way to increase this is maybe to stay at your Wi-Fi if you have a good Wi-Fi connection. Mobile data can be more fluctuating if your mobile data is not as good, but it's all just a trial and error on your end to see how you can decrease it. Another reason might be if the server is located in the US and you're playing in the East Europe, then the response time could be higher than someone who's actually living in the US region. Now, frames per second, which is the number which says 37, 39 and 43, is actually how many images you see per second. And the higher number you have is basically going to give you a smoother experience, as it's not seeming to just like stutter all the time. And when I first played this for the first 50 days, I didn't have more than 30 frames per second. No matter what changes I did to the device, no matter what I did in game, I just couldn't understand why my device was kept at 30 frames per second when my friends could play it on 60 frames per second. So what was the difference I noticed to allow me to go beyond this cap? Well, basically, you have to go to the settings here at the navigator in the upper right corner. Let me just get away from these units and I will show you. If you look at the navigator in the upper right corner, you see a cogwheel, right? And if you press the cogwheel and you go to the system, you will have different kinds of graphics settings. My way of thinking was, alright, if I want good frames per second, I need to make sure that the game doesn't take too much of whatever internal stuff is inside my phone. So if I would have it on good or low, it's basically going to allow me to push out more frames per second, because it's not as requiring when it comes to the graphics. This is the wrong way of thinking of it. What happens when you go below high settings, you are gonna tell the game to cap your frames per second. It's basically gonna say that I will not go beyond 30 frames per second to assure that you get a smooth gaming experience on this graphic level. And this took me a very long time to figure out, because I believe the lower the better, but it's actually the best option is to use the best graphics setting. This will break the frames per second limit and allow you to have a more smoother experience. And then you could also go into your phone's settings and maybe change the screen resolution to a lower one to assure that it's not too requiring when you are playing your game. That's something that you have to keep in mind, and I felt a significant difference from doing that little trick on my own. It's been such a blessing to do all the arenas now when I finally can play and it feels less laggy. Now, there's one more thing that I want you to keep in mind that's actually affecting your gaming performance, and that is the chat window. And you might be wondering, how do the chat actually affect your gaming? But this conversation will not clear out itself, so we'll keep stacking and piling up. So let's say you're out orb farming for 3 hours and you're supposed to come back into arena. all of this data that your phone have collected is basically going to be there and decrease your performance, and you'll just notice that it loads slower and slower, and maybe your frames per second drops because it doesn't clear itself out. So what I always do before I go into Forgotten Village, if I go into Nightmare Island, I go ahead and reconnect. I'll basically reboot the whole game, but even if I just relog, you'll see that it cleanses the chat. And it's basically just think that you have a RAM memory in the phone, right? And you just start piling it up, and then it's actually full, but you keep piling it up. And this is basically a way to clean the chat and assure that there's no unnecessarily data that it's like bugging your phone, and it can actually push up your FPS if it have dropped for whatever reason. But anyhow, that's my tips and tricks on how you can improve your gaming performance just by keeping a bit of attention to the chat, keeping an eye of attention to graphics settings, and also your Wi-Fi connection, internet connection in general. But this has been Paradox, telling you a bit about that. If you have anything else you would like me to cover, just make sure to use the comment section below and I will cover it in one of my upcoming videos. But for now, I wish you all to have a great weekend and I will see you in the next video.